So the first film for the Dorsal Takeover is one that is close to our hearts, a DIY bonefishing film. These guys head out on a destination bonefishing trip after receiving their tax refunds and make a whole DIY trip out of it. With no guides, no skiffs, only rented kayaks on a remote and deserted island? Do you think a group of guys from Alabama can pull this off? Well, watch to find out.
If anything starts flashing, let me know, but besides that, that's all you have to do. We all in the frame?
You mic'd up? Yep,
Yeah, we're mic'd up.
Yeah, it won't be long now, boys. Won't be long.
Gosh. I think we were on like cheap flights or something like that, and we found that we could get to the Turks and Caicos cheaper than we could in a lot of like domestic areas. And I was like, dude, guys,
Yeah, 4 days. You said, what's the cheapest flight to get to Bonefish we can
yeah,
find?
I'm itching. We've got our tax refunds in hand. Our wives or girlfriends are being really generous. Like, let's do a weekend trip, burn our tax refunds as far as we can go, save as much money we can go. So where can we do a DIY trip on a cheap flight? And it was Turks and Caicos. And I was like, man, that sounds like a super resort. Yeah, it sounds bougie. So what can we do to make it more like a trip we'd want to do? And I think that's when you found out like Middle Caicos would be the play, right?
Yep. We said we were going to do DIY. We said no guides. Let's get on there with some fly rods and figure it out.
Yeah, we had 3 days of fishing.
You got kayaks.
Yeah, we were going to use a local kayak rental service where they thought they would kind of give us a good like nod where to fish in a certain direction. And in the end, they had a scheduling conflict that came up super like last second or whatever. And so we get the beach kayaks out of our backyard, 2 paddle boards, and strap them to the roof of our SUV. We
Increase by 10%.
with one ratchet strap, right, and some spare line.
Yeah, we figured it out.
And just got on Google Maps the night before, tried to find some fishy areas, and pulled over to the side of the road. So yeah, you and Dan get everything rigged up. We got the kayaks. We start pulling them through the pine trees to get to the beach. I think Dan nearly has a heart attack. You okay, Dan?
Yes.
Turns out we had a ton of gear, more than we expected, and pulled through. Dan was violently hungover, would be the best way to describe that. And
Wheezing on the trail.
yeah, I think somebody may have thrown up at some point on the way in. Made it to the beach though, and they're like, all right, here we go. Let's do this thing. DIY, figure it out. We've never been here before. We have no direction. Just like go over there, and there should be some flats, assuming the tide's even right, which probably wasn't. And we started paddling in our kayaks that were full of water.
Yeah. So what, 2 of them started taking on water. You had like a paddle about that was about this big.
I turn around, I see Dan, he's doing circles. He's like, this damn thing won't steer. I was like, well, you got 500 pounds of water to the fucking hole probably.
And so yeah, we cross a channel, like tuck in our kayaks, and then it opens up to this massive system. And we're like, okay, we can come at it a couple different directions. And so at first we really wanted to do it on foot. So a couple of us break up and go on foot for a good couple of miles. So we set off from where we dump the kayak, we walk. I know 2 of us make it almost 6 miles round trip, but we go all the way down. We fish a ton of water. We don't see a lot of fish. Actually, correction, we don't see any fish. And then we're like, crap, our lunch is in the kayaks. We got to go back.
And then the tide started coming up a little bit. And then we had heard of these beautiful, hard-packed sand flats. It would be very easy to wade in Turks and Caicos. And then we found out there's something called moguls. And that was probably one of the worst wading experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, so like when you say moguls, it's like these mounds of sand.
2.5 feet tall.
They're cones repeating for miles and miles and miles.
You hit the top of one, you slide down into it, and you go just almost waist deep, and then step up again, waist deep. Hip flexor's gone.
Yeah.
Not seeing any fish.
And that's another point about the moguls is that not only is it's just so strenuous to like hike through them, but that means the fish can sit in the troughs
Yeah.
and then slide in and out,
These
and you'll
fish were
never
not
see them.
tailing.
Yeah.
It was kind of windy, so we couldn't see anything motion on the surface. It was tough to see a fish.
And so it was one of our prouder moments, I actually think. We go back to the beach, we eat lunch at like 4 p.m. We're all beat to death, and we all have a beer and some food, and we say, you know what, we're gonna give it one last send. And so 3 of us,
Tide was going out pretty
yeah,
good.
so 3 of us send it down the leeward side of the bay, and golden light starts to hit.
They
and
laid down, slicked
dude,
off.
kid you not, start seeing tails. And it's like for the dumb bone fishermen, that's what we need. We need to see the fish sticking their tails out of the water. You can literally see the sunlight coming through their tails. And so I think you were up on the rod, and so we start hunting these schools that we see from kind of a couple hundred yards away, and start pursuing them. And so it was actually kind of cool because we saw the group of bonefish break off. And so you follow a group this way, and they kind of get ahead of you. And Tommy, who had already caught a fish, like he took the camera, he's like, dude, go over there. And I was like, what? And like I had an extra rod, and I was like, I didn't want to steal your fish. But he was like, no, these are different fish. And so he like points me that way, and sure enough, they're tailing, they're happy, they're feeding, and it's like 3 or 4 fish.
It's tight up against the mangroves.
Dude, they're so tight, and you can see them. And so they're working. And for whatever reason, I'm actually patient for once. So I walk out, I cut them off because I know they're gonna bounce off this mangrove point.
And you did your very conservative bin cast.
Bin cast.
Let's go 10 feet short.
10
All right,
feet?
now how about 7
5
feet?
feet.
And 5 feet? We're going on them. That was the one.
And then so when so they're coming out of the mangroves, and so I finally put it on them, and it's the moments we live for, right, in fishing. You twitch it once, and they just go whoosh, and they just charge the fly, and it's that moment you got lightning in your veins. You're like, oh my gosh, don't freak out, just keep on moving the bait, move it, and they both come and fight for it. One grabs it, stick him, and I was just like, man, and you can hear it, sadly enough, I break the audio on the camera because I scream like I've never caught a bonefish before, because it was just such a cool experience to watch him like go 30 yards chasing my fly, stick him, come all the way up, and then because we forgot we're in the Turks and Caicos. These are not small bonefish.
Yep.
And so it was just a big boy. I was giving him a little bit of too much juice. Pops the line. Literally, I'm leaning all the way back, so I like start falling in the water.
Crumbled.
And then just I'm in shambles, hands on my knees, and I'm just like, it's that weird experience of like, you're like, it's so depressing but so exhilarating at the same time. And you're just like, man. Then I look, so like I'm in shambles. I look over to you, and like you're creeping, and you're in hot pursuit. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, these fish are done, so I better go see what George is doing.
That's when we pushed back into the graveyard,
Yeah,
right?
you go deep into the mangroves.
Yeah, it was like 6 inches of water, and there was just mangrove shoots every 5 feet. Just shoot. I'm like, okay, if I stick a fish here, it's gonna get broken off. We're gonna try it anyways. Wait till fish come right up, cast to him, come closer. I'm like, come closer. You see where he's at? He's on right there. And then one comes literally like over here. I was like, if I move, he's gonna fucking spook. It was like redfishing in Louisiana almost, but they were bonefish. They weren't spookies. Nobody's ever thought there was fishing on the thing. And I just went, yep. Oh boy. He's gone.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not. That's his friend.
Rod tip up. Just keep rod tip up.
It's way up. Oh God, he ate it. Oh no. Starts doing the 888 circles, grabs every reel, and I was like, he's gonna break off. Somehow I just stayed tight to him, didn't let him run, and I guess I was using maybe 16 pound or something, so it stayed on. I just kind of weaved him through and picked it up. Wasn't a big fish, but to save the day at the end.
Dude.
DIY, made it that 8-mile hike to the mogul's worth it.
And you think back on that day, we started with no knowledge, no idea if the kayaks were even gonna float, and we came away with 3 bonefish. Like that would be a good day, like just fishing with a guide.
Yep.
And we did it with no knowledge, no background or anything. And so in my opinion, that's
Yeah.
a hell of a DIY day.
And again, that was the kayaks that like came with our Airbnb. We just like, maybe they'll float.
Had some mold on
We'll go
them.
down the end of the road and maybe try to find some bonefish flats. Then the next day, we actually went to the spot we should have gone to
Right.
with the real kayaks. We had the guy kind of point us that direction. and went out and slow day again to start. But then towards the afternoon, slicked off again, and then we're like, where did our friend Tommy go? And he was down that way. I was like, I think he's on some fish, because he's not moving at all. Sure enough, we pull up, and they're just pods of fish everywhere we look. Schools, pushers, wakes, tails, and we're like, okay, this is the spot.
There were so many things that happened. So when we were working our way towards Tommy, Dan and David started working the mangroves really close. And like, I think David thought he was fishing for sharks because the bonefish were a little bigger. And he spooked a bonefish, it ran into the mangroves, and then as it kind of came back out of the mangroves, he threw at it again, and it ate.
Yeah.
And I just saw him, like, and again, he hasn't caught a bonefish before, so like the line's zipping, and he's like, it's pandemonium, he's freaking out. Dan's a hero, because Dan comes in and starts to like corral the fish so it stays close and doesn't run into the mangroves, and I'm running with the camera like on my head.
David's like, I did everything wrong. I did not deserve that fish. Like, it's okay, you got it.
It's called fishing. Sometimes you
He said,
get
my
what you
cast was everything was the hooks. I didn't even hook set the fish. I should have lost it 5 times. Like, okay, just enjoy it. You got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Taking it down.
It was really cool for me because there's my brother holding his first bonefish, and it's a quality fish.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't deserve this. I'm like, shh.
Enjoy.
Enjoy this moment. You got your first bonefish. And so then we back out, and a school that was off of him spooks, and it like kind of comes out, and they start feeding again. They start working towards you.
So they went out here, and I just waited for them. I was like, okay, here they come. There's like a good 6 count. Come on, a little closer. And I start barely moving the fly, and then they do that thing when they come up. You know, all the tails go in this little competition.
Velociraptor.
Like, okay, keep stripping, keep stripping, keep stripping, keep stripping. All of a sudden, you come tight. They freak out. Blast off, and yeah, that was cool. That was super cool.
And so, so we finally do make it over to Tommy, and he was like, and you know when you have a fishing buddy who's abandoned you and they're not moving, something good is happening? We finally make it over, and we realize why he hasn't moved, because there's just waves of fish coming in. Just
like it was a damn highway.
Yeah. So we were almost like pulling like a steelhead move, right? Where we all post up 100 yards away from one another and just have these rounds of school coming in.
It's like a damn tarpon spot almost.
Yeah.
Waiting on them, staked out, coming towards us, and then everybody caught fish.
Yeah.
Dan caught a fish. You caught a fish. Tyler caught 2 or 3. I caught 2 or 3. Oh yeah.
So my 2 fish had like a different ring to them. So I'd broken one off yesterday, the day before, and then the first fish I threw out. So my brother grabbed the camera, and I start running after the school because I hadn't seen the school yet. So
you hunted that thing down from
y'all,
like a mile.
y'all all were doing well, and I was like, dude, I've got to get on the board. And so this pack of like 6 fish, they're moving this way, I'm moving this way, and we're still in mogul. So I'm working, I'm giving them plenty of space so I don't spook them. But I literally walk them down for probably 300 yards until we meet at a point. Then, being bonefish, they turn and start coming back towards me. And so where I had first about to go for my conservative cast, right, 10 feet away, I have to then crouch down, get super low because I know they're gonna see me because there's nothing out. We're in the middle of this flat. And so I literally squanch down, get to the very like bottom where my like ass is in the water, and I'm ticking. And then I stick up. Yeah! Go to clear the line, and wouldn't you know it, nice little bird nest of fly line right there. And so, you know, bonefish, they're taking off. So I sprint forward to like try to wiggle the knot out with my fingers, and I actually get it out. So I get it out, and I'm running to give him room so that he doesn't break off. Clear the line, and then once it clears, I lose my balance. And so I like lean back a little bit, and then just, because again, they're moguls, eat, and I just ski through the water because you know, again, you're gonna break it off.
Step back, and then you go forward.
And so I'm like face full of water, and I literally just paw a mogul and move my fly rod forward, because I don't want to break him off. Get it up in the air, and he's still on, and like, I was literally gonna throw up by the time I landed it, because I was like, it was like intense cardio, a lot of adrenaline, and then it's a quality bonefish.
You always know when Ben's on a fish because he casts, and then each strip he gets lower and lower and lower.
I don't want to spook a fish, man.
He's almost laying down. I saw that little tail flicker. I was like, oh God, he's on it. He sticks it, he goes, oh shit. Pops back, good dish. Worth watching though.
I mean, that's my favorite part, is that you were laughing so hard you could hear it echoing off the camera. I don't think I've ever worked so hard for a bonefish.